Welcome to Bloomers in the Garden. I'm Len Schroeder. Tom emailed us about planting hydrangeas in a container. We'll explain the do's and don'ts in our first segment. In our second segment, Doug from Bristol, PA, sent us a picture of his neighbor's browning Japanese hollies. Hear what's happening in our second segment. Weeds have gone crazy in the last few weeks. We have solutions to control your weeds gone wild in our third segment. Watergarden plants for your pond have come in 3 or 4 different types. We'll discuss them all in our fourth segment. And we're sounding the alarm. You better get your sprayer out. If you don't spray right now, you'll miss the opportunity to control bagworm. We'll tell you what to do in our final segment. So stay tuned. We'll be back in the garden right after these messages.
Bloomers in the Garden is brought to you each week by Bloomers Home and Garden Center. Bloomers is an award-winning garden center just 20 minutes from Philadelphia. Bloomers has been providing expert advice turning brown thumbs green for over 30 years. At Bloomers, we want you to ask us every question, even if you think it's silly. We share information in a friendly, non-judgmental way that is meant to teach and spread the joy of gardening. Visit Bloomers Home and Garden Center in Washington Township, Gloucester County. For directions, go to bloomers.com, and we'll see you in the garden. Fertilome's Triple Action contains 70% neem oil and 0.25% pyrethrins as a concentrate and ready to spray. It is an insecticide, fungicide, and miticide labeled to use on vegetables, fruits, nuts, herbs, spices, and ornamentals. This organic OMRI-listed product controls a wide variety of insect pests and diseases, including aphids, scale, spider mites, whiteflies, rust, leaf spot, and powdery mildew. This insecticide is an all-in-one bottle that will cure just about any problem you may run into throughout the year. Fertilome's Triple Action has been helping gardeners across the country for years. Best to apply in late evening and early morning hours. Mix 1 ounce, which is equivalent to 2 tablespoons in a gallon of water. The best part is Triple Action may be used up to the day of harvest. So the next time you are visiting your favorite garden center, ask for Fertilome's Triple Action and expect to have the best looking plants in the neighborhood.
You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or see and hear us by subscribing to Bloomers YouTube channel. Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley every Saturday. First, wake up with us at 6 a.m. on WNWR The Word at 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. Tune in at 8 a.m. to Bloomers in the Garden Radio on Talk 860 WWDB. A rebroadcast of Bloomers in the Garden Radio is played each Saturday evening at 5 p.m. on The Word, 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard throughout the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 AM WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. So Tom sent us the following email. He said, I purchased 2 of your cherry explosion hydrangeas. They are beautiful. Since I saw on the tag they can be planted in a container, I have a couple of questions. How large a container is needed for healthy roots? And how do I winter these? Is a heated garage okay? Very smart questions. Aaron had actually responded to him and with very smart answers. The container needs to be bigger than the existing root system. And you got to keep in mind, all the hydrangeas that we sell, there's not like somebody digging them out of the ground like you'd have a balled and burlapped arborvitae or something along those lines. They're grown in containers from the time that they're little 4-inch rooted cuttings to the time that they're great big. I mean, we've had 15-gallon sized hydrangeas. So they're always available in a container. So keep that in mind. But how big of a container? For now, you're going to want to go to 2 or 3, maybe even 4 inches wider than the pot is now, and a little deeper. The depth isn't as important necessarily as the width so it can grow those roots out. Keeping them in a container requires that you need to feed them and you need to take care of them beyond just watering. But watering's important because hydrangeas love to be heavily watered. That doesn't mean they like to be wet, right? We have a pond segment coming up in the show, and they are not pond plants, okay? They do not cross over to pond plants, but they do like it moist. They can take the shade. But again, you need to make sure that you're giving them enough moisture, but you're also that soil that you're going to use, and that we would recommend using the Gardener's Gold by Master Nursery. That is a great soil for your hydrangeas. And you also want to feed them. And what I would feed them with, depending on, these are cherry explosions, so they're going to be a little bit different pH. Your pH is going to be a little bit higher so that they keep that color. And that's what you really want. They're a beautiful plant, and that you don't want to confuse them by giving them an acid-type fertilizer that you see for shrubs or see for hydrangeas, because what it'll do is that'll kind of make them a muddled pink, or, again, that cherry color, which is a close red with a little bit of white actually in it. So make sure that you're feeding them a liquid fertilizer, like a standard 20-20-20, which is from Jack's Classic, would be fine. That's a water soluble. You're going to do that probably maybe once a month. You don't have to do it the same amount as you would your annuals. But then we get to his question about keeping it in a winter oasis. So his garage is heated. Lucky you. But it needs some vernalization. Vernalization is when plants need to go through a cold cycle in order for them to bloom the following year. Like, for instance, all your daffodils and tulips and those kind of plants all need to have vernalization. There are a large number of plants that need that. And I would not put them in that heated garage. I would keep them outside, and that they're going to get cold and they're going to freeze. You can move the pots, being that they're mobile, and you can move them into a section where it's not going to get a lot of winter wind. But you got to make sure that, one, you're using frost-resistant containers, okay? You also want to protect them from that winter wind, but you want to keep them watered. Have you ever looked around this year and you noticed great big arborvitae and even small arborvitae have died? We went into the winter season being very, very dry. And the roots of those arborvitae and other plants, and we're going to be talking in our next segment about some Japanese hollies, that they didn't have enough moisture in the root system and therefore up through the stems to be able to hold off a dry winter season. And that's pretty much what we had. So you got to make sure that you're keeping them moist all the way through. Water them all the way through before the ground freezes solid, or until the ground freezes solid. Your plants will come back and the flowers will be much better the following spring when you do that. Otherwise, you're risking them being dead, quite frankly. It also becomes a issue with, are they warranted then? They're not being planted in the ground. Is that their best spot? Not really. It's an individual basis. But again, you've got to do everything. Like we have a saying at Bloomers, we give you living plants that are in the best possible shape you can get when you get them. And we guarantee them to live, but it's up to you to make them thrive. If they just don't look good, they're still under warranty. And that it's up to you to make them thrive. So if you're putting them into a position, especially in a dry environment over the winter where you're not putting them in a protected area because they are in containers rather than put in the ground, It's up to you to make them thrive. And that all your local garden centers will give you advice about how to take care of them. And don't make the mistake of putting them in that heated garage, because all of a sudden now they become a houseplant. Now, if your garage is heated, meaning that it just doesn't get below 32, maybe. But it sounds like it's a nice, warm, toasty area. So, again, you can do it. Hydrangeas have been in pots their entire life so far. They haven't been planted in the ground yet. So they're used to being in pots, but they're also used to being taken care of at the nursery. So make sure you're watering all the way up till the ground is frozen. And that may mean into almost December. So keep them watered, keep them watered, keep them watered. Move them into a place where they're not going to be out in front of your house subject to all the winter winds. Put them in a protected area, and that they should do great the following year. And don't prune them back in the fall. Don't prune them back in the fall. You want to leave them just go. The only time I would prune them back is probably right now, right after they're done blooming. Once they're done blooming, that first flush of blossoms, that's when you trim them back, and then you leave them alone. All right? Well, Tom, I hope that helps. If you've got any questions, you know what to do. Call that hotline. That's 609-685-1880. We'll be back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. Wanting to up your game in the vegetable garden? With 90 years of organic gardening experience, the Espoma Company has you covered. Espoma Organic Garden Tone is not your average garden variety fertilizer. Garden Tone is especially blended for organic vegetable gardens. Its all-natural formula contains Biotone, a blend of organic ingredients that supplies essential nutrients for strong, healthy plants and mouth-watering vegetables. Its slow-release formula provides continuous feeding. The Biotone contained in Garden Tone is a combination of organic ingredients and beneficial microbes to help roots grow deeper and faster for bigger, more bountiful harvests. Garden Tone is simple to use and safe for people, pets, and the planet. No harmful chemicals or synthetic fertilizers are ever added. You can find Garden Tone at fine garden centers. Visit espoma.com to find a retailer near you. Garden Tone from Espoma, a natural in the garden since 1929.
If you're like me, then you absolutely love birds. The Bird Sanctuary at Bloomer's Home and Garden Center has you covered. They're dedicated to the care and feeding of wild birds of all sorts. Want to bring more birds to your yard? Then you got to see this place. Bloomers has a huge flock of feeders, birdhouses, birdseed, and much, much more. Want to feed the birds and not the squirrels? They have this absolutely cool bronze bird feeder that will drive those sneaky squirrels nuts. They'll be moving to the next door neighbor in no time. OMG. Bloomers have these absolutely adorable birdhouses that will turn your yard into the perfect bird B&B. They carry all types of wild bird seed, suet, seed cakes, and mealworms. Bloomer stocks, Lyric, Coles, CNS, Pine Tree Farms, and much, much more that will keep those beautiful birds coming back for more. Bloomer's Home and Garden Center is located in Washington Township in Gloucester County. For more information and directions, check them out on the web at bloomers.com. Bloomer's Home and Garden Center, you got to see this place.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. So Doug from Bristol, PA, he's called before the hotline and texted the hotline. This time, He's asking a question for his neighbor. He has large sky pencil Japanese hollies, and they're browning out in sections. Now, these aren't just like large, like 4 foot large. They're probably 6 to 8 feet tall. So they've been in a long time. And that the browning is like one whole side is brown or 3/4 of it is brown, but it's not every one. And I counted there's 3, 6, 9, 12. There's about 15 or so of these planted, and they make a really nice screen, nice and narrow, if it wasn't for the browning. Now, what's going on? What's going on? Like we talked about in the previous segment, they have winter damage, and that winter damage is from the dry cold and also the way that the temperatures dropped. If you recall this past winter, we had pretty temperate, temperatures. It was 30s and it was okay. And it was, 40s most of the time, maybe 50. And then all of a sudden like that, it dropped, bam, down to almost zero. A lot of plants can't sustain that quick a drop, especially if they're deprived of moisture. We did have a drought, and it was a fall drought, even end of summer. So the end of summer through into winter, we were really, really dry. And do you remember much snow? I really don't remember much snow. But then again, we're knocking on summer's door, so it's hard to remember. But it wasn't enough to sustain the plants once they started slowing down. And that's Doug's neighbor's problem. So these sky pencil hollies have the damage, not from an insect, not from a disease, but it's from an environmental factor, which was the dryness. So what's a homeowner to do? Wait until they have flushed out before you try to prune any of that dead growth out. You're really trying to let them grow past it and hide it than trying to go and do anything with your pruners. So this is one time, you are to fear the shears. Don't go and try to cut it out, because all of a sudden you're going to have one that's 3 foot and another one that's 8 foot. You want to try to let them grow out of it. Now, I'm not saying that browned area is going to push out new growth, but the growth that's around it may surround it and hide it so that you don't see it, and it's on the inside of the plant. Because, again, they're going to start to grow and they start to push out that growth. Now, you want to help them grow. And what does that mean? That means you have to feed them. You need to feed them. Feed them. Again, the acid special from Jack's Classic, do that every 2 to 3 weeks, all the way through into the end of August. The reason you're doing that is you want to put as much growth on those plants as possible. And then you're also going to want to put down Hollytone. If you haven't already, a Spoma Hollytone. You're going to do that now. And then you're going to do it probably another 2 applications. Normally, I just say spring and fall, but we're trying to get these guys to grow past their problems. Sounds like kids. But what to do is make sure you're feeding them. And so I would do this, a Spoma Hollytone, and you're going to do that probably every, probably now, then again in late July, and then again in the fall. Water them? Yeah. Make sure they're not being overwatered. That index finger probe, stick your finger in the soil, see if it's moist, let it go a day. And like, this is the season where we get a lot of people say, oh, but I have a sprinkler system. Well, that doesn't mean anything other than you have water that may be putting too much water on your plants. If it's not adjusted based on what their needs are, great, you've got a sprinkler system. So you have a thing that kills your plants with too much water then. You got to make sure that you're checking your plants, how much water they get, how much they need, and if that's working. If it's too much water, you need to change the timer on the zone. And you know what we say here at Bloomers in the Garden? It's we'd rather have you water more at one time, so lots of water at one time, and let it go and less often. So not, 10 minutes a zone every day. No. That is the worst you can do because you want deep-rooted plants, deep-rooted lawns. You want that water to perk all the way through and pull those roots past a drought area. So if they're just getting a few minutes a day, they're growing all their roots in the top 6 inches. So they're subject to that problem with the drought. So a drought will go and wipe them out because the roots are only 6 inches tall. If those roots are a foot or more down, then they're protected. They're out of that drought zone. More water at one time and less often. So not 10 minutes a zone every day or every other day. You want to do a half hour, and I'd rather you do it twice a week. Because again, what rain benefits us if it's 10 minutes long? Not very much. Not very much. And you've got to keep them watered all the way through into when the ground is frozen solid. Now, I know you have to turn off your sprinkler systems if you've got them. Yes, see if you can get on the last one on the list. It's like, look, you start shutting them off in September. Why don't you wait until November before you shut my sprinklers off? And if they do shut off early, you're going to need to keep watering them all the way through the time when the ground freezes. If you want them to look good next spring, you've got to make sure that they're well hydrated going into the spring growing season. It amazes me on how many arborvitaes are dead that are big. They're 10, 15. I've seen one that was 20 foot tall, and it was dead, and it was from the same problem. It wasn't hydrated going into the winter season. And there are like rows of when some of these arborvitaes are 10 years old, 15 years old. You've got to make sure that you're keeping them watered going in to the winter season. And don't misunderstand. I'm not saying overwater them. I'm just saying you have to keep them watered and hydrated. Index finger probe. Stick your finger in the soil. Let the first few inches dry out before you put any water on. And then you're going to put a lot of water on so that it penetrates deep into the soil. Then you're going to wait again. You're going to wait until let it dry out, develop a pattern, and then you water. More at one time, less often. If you've got questions, and I know you do, because I know there's a lot of people with dead arborvitaes out there. You can call the hotline. That's 609-685-1880. We'll be back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. We are proud to announce that Bloomers in the Garden has partnered with Renewal by Andersen of Greater Philadelphia, Delaware, South Jersey, and Southern Maryland. Renewal by Andersen is the top window and door company in the United States, specializing in replacement windows and doors. You might be thinking right now, what the heck do windows have to do with gardening? Well, Renewal by Andersen makes this beautiful garden bay window that's energy efficient and made from recycled materials. It's perfect for growing the finest indoor plants possible. When you are looking out your windows filled with plants in your beautiful garden, you don't want to see old windows that are cloudy, warped, or even rotting. That's why people in the horticulture community love Renewal by Andersen. Not only do we want our gardens to be beautiful, but their homes as well. Renewal by Andersen participates in horticultural events such as flower shows, earth days, and eco fairs. To get more information and set up a free home consultation, please visit www.philadelphiawindow.com and be sure to tell them Bloomers in the Garden sent you.
Is she gone?
Nope, she's still standing there.
What is she doing?
I think she's watching the grass grow.
That's our job.
I know, right? She's watching the grass grow, the flowers grow. Ooh, look, the trees are growing.
Can't say as I blame her. Remember where she bought all this stuff?
Duh, bought us there too.
Bloomers Home and Garden Center. Find us online at bloomers.com.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. Weeds have gone wild over the last few weeks. A lot of moisture in the ground, so it's making the weeds grow. We're getting heat right now. They're going to grow. They're going to grow. And with all of that rain, there's going to be some dormant seed that you're saying, how am I getting weeds here? I've never gotten weeds here. Well, guess what? Birds fly, birds poop, and they eat seeds. So they may be like Johnny Appleseed spreading the plants that you don't want in your garden. Okay, so what do? First of all, in your lawn, and I just did this, and it's starting to work. It's so exciting when you put something down and it actually is working. That in my lawn, I had plantain, I had some dandelions. I also had, like, it was weird. It was like, I think that Aaron's.
Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was hot micing.
He's cleaning his
cleaning my lens. Yeah.
If you're wondering what that sound was,
hot micing. Sorry about that.
Anyway, so I had all these things, and I actually had a bunch of. It looks like they're the apple trees. Like I have an ornamental apple, ornamental crab apple, and it looks like that the birds have ate those off the trees, and they're all over in my lawn right now. And so I used Weed Beater Ultra from Bonide. Now we have, let's see, we have that up here. There you go. Thanks, Aaron. That right there, and that it comes in a concentrate. I brought the ready to use here in the studio for smaller lawns and such. If you want to just hit the culprits, it'll work. And it also works on wild violets. We have a lot of people that come in, they see people, they look like African violets, and they're not African violets, they're wild violets, and clover. And it's a great product. It's good to have as part of your arsenal for your lawn, just simply because it can also be used in the cooler times of the year. Like when you see dandelions really start, and you'll see all of those evergreen or overwintering weeds, and sometimes it's not like when crabgrass is not growing, you'll see these weeds, and that Weed Beater Ultra will work when the temperatures are 45 degrees or above. So it's a good thing. We don't have that issue now, but it also works. Does not kill the lawn at all. And again, instead of having 10 different types of weed control, this one will work on most of those troublesome weeds. In your landscape beds, your sidewalk cracks, and your fence lines, gonna say glyphosate is still right here. Glyphosate is still the best. Now, there are lots of TV ads talking about the class action suit about glyphosate and Roundup, but it's still the best. Now, you just have to use it smart. Put on some glove, plastic or vinyl gloves. Put on, have your sleeves down all the way to the gloves. Just don't get it all over you. Don't bathe in it. One of the part of the lawsuit was a guy who had he was a commercial applicator, and he had a backpack sprayer that had a hole in it, and it would go down his back like every day. Hello. I don't know. McFly. Anyway. You just have to be smart. And that goes with all of this stuff. And don't think because it's organic, like what about vinegar? We sell it. Or we have it. I mean, it's okay, but it kills everything. If you want to go and just isolate your lawn weeds, you can't do it. A few years ago, we had somebody call the program, and she killed her entire lawn with her own homemade version of vinegar, and it is different. look, and it also doesn't always kill the root. Where glyphosate, and again, it's mostly known by Roundup, which it comes down to where Roundup, the patent is off Roundup. And that's why the high yield brand is the one that we recommend. And it's simply because it's cheap. It's the cheapest price going. We have the large commercial, like 2.5 gallon that we use at Bloomers, but we also add something that's a preventative to it. Now, if you ever see like Roundup or glyphosate, 24/7 or 365, take a look at what the active ingredients are, because those are the ones I like, because what it'll do is it'll kill the existing weed. Like, so you're spraying along your fence line, right? You want those weeds dead, but you don't want new ones to come back. So it will prevent those weeds from coming back. Same thing with like your sidewalk cracks. Depending on what the weather's like, you may have weeds that come back in like 3 or 6 weeks. Those 365 versions will prevent the weeds. Now, we put an additive with ours that will prevent the weeds from coming up in, like, for instance, the nursery. Like, we need to spray the ground in the nursery so our shrubs aren't surrounded by a bunch of weeds, because that doesn't look very good. But again, you're looking for that 41% glyphosate. Look at the active ingredients. Learn what the active ingredients are. It's really important that you start to do that, because they dumb down the labels so much where it's like super duper weed killer, but you have no idea what's in it. Start reading the labels so you do know what's in it. Now, a big one is poison ivy and oak killer, brush killer. For instance, the one that we have is a bonide poison oak and ivy killer. It has a huge label. Now, it also, one thing is like, will this kill the grass? No. You could actually spray, like, for instance, it's listed for clover. If you have clover in your lawn, you can spray this on your lawn. It's not going to kill the grass. It's going to kill your poison ivy and oak. I have notes in here about kudzu. Kudzu is a crazy weed. If you have it, I'm sorry, because it can grow 2 foot in a day. So it is a crazy weed. But most brush, like you would think, say blackberries or some of those other things, you need to really coat it in order for it to work. Now, I'd be torn between using poison ivy and oak or using glyphosate. So they kind of do the same thing, except poison ivy and oak do not kill your grass. So if you have things growing in your lawn and you have some viney things growing in your lawn, you can absolutely use the bonide poison ivy and oak control. So that will do it. Pretty soon, the wet weather's coming. It's going to be warm. And what happens? Nutgrass. Now, nutgrass is also nut sedge. It's the same thing. Depends on where you live. That I would get the specialty control product that will control nut sedge. Now, there's a number of different types of nut sedge. We know the one that grows faster than the rest of the lawn. It usually comes and it's a little bit more yellow, and that it has that little thing on the, like that seed head on the top of it, like that. That's nut sedge. But there is also a real low growing one. Like my whole lawn at one time was mostly nut sedge, or that was that type of sedge, and that it controls that as well. But it's a specific product to control a specific weed, and that's to control nut sedge. You're not going to use any of the poison ivy and oak controls or the Weed Beater Ultra. That is not going to control that nut grass or nut sedge. So you need to get a nut sedge killer or control product. Get ready. The weeds are coming. Some of them are already here. So make sure you get out there and you're spraying, and that make sure you're careful. I want you to read the instructions completely. They are like a book, and they're boring. But a lot of the information of how you apply it, how often you apply it, what it controls, what it doesn't control, and you have to be very safe with these things. I think the weed controls are as dangerous or more than the insect controls. And that, quite frankly, the organic stuff generally doesn't work. It can kill some of it, and it rarely kills it down to the root, as opposed to like the glyphosate product. Again, I am all for changing the label that you can't use it on crops to kill crops early so you can have an earlier harvest. I don't want to eat it, but I do want to kill my weeds. If you've got questions about weed controls of any sort, call that hotline. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll be back right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden.
Fertilome's Triple Action contains 70% neem oil and 0.25% pyrethrins as a concentrate and ready to spray. It is an insecticide, fungicide, and miticide labeled to use on vegetables, fruits, nuts, herbs, spices, and ornamentals. This organic OMRI-listed product controls a wide variety of insect pests and diseases, including aphids, scale, spider mites, whiteflies, rust, leaf spot, and powdery mildew. This insecticide is an all-in-one bottle that will cure just about any problem you may run into throughout the year. Fertilome's Triple Action has been helping gardeners across the country for years. Best to apply in late evening and early morning hours. Mix 1 ounce, which is equivalent to 2 tablespoons in a gallon of water. The best part is Triple Action may be used up to the day of harvest. So the next time you are visiting your favorite garden center, ask for Fertilome's Triple Action and expect to have the best looking plants in the neighborhood.
If you're looking for a specific potting soil for your house plants rather than just a generic professional potting soil that sometimes, let's just say, it can be a little soggy, the Cape Netic Blend Organic and Natural Indoor Houseplant Mix from Coast of Maine is what you're looking for. It's specially formulated for indoor houseplants and flowers using a coarse coconut core, that's important, perlite, and aged bark to optimize drainage and aeration for robust root development. The coconut core is what true gardeners and professionals are looking to replace some of the peat moss that are in most potting soil blends. It adds a little more air around the root system without having it dry out. The peat sometimes gets a little wet. Do you have any fungus gnats flying around? That happens too. So if you've got the coconut core in your mix, it's something that's going to be better certainly for indoor houseplants. So whether you're growing peace lilies, spider plants, philodendrons, monsteras, or other popular or exotic houseplants, this unique compost-free blend provides the optimum structure and benefits for nurturing strong, beautiful indoor plants. And again, that's the Cape Netic Blend Indoor Houseplant Mix by Coast of Maine. Look for it at your local garden center. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. Hey, we haven't talked much about ponds this season, so we're going to change that right now. Watergarden plants have arrived, and there are so many different types that you can put in the water as you can in the ground. In fact, there are some that are the same plants, and we're going to go over them. There are different types, so let's go over them slowly. Marginal plants. So marginal plants are ones that go along the edge of the pond where they aren't submerged deep, that where the soil is basically absorbing your pond's water. It doesn't necessarily have to be submerged under the water line, but you need to kind of hide it if you can. Like that's what those ledges are for that you built in your pond. Now, there's also submersible plants. Now, we call them like water lilies, tropicals, where they get submersed into the pond, but their leaves and their flowers grow up on the surface, so their roots are down below, and that their leaves and flowers are up above the waterline. And then oxygenators, one of the most important plants that you can put in your pond because it does a lot of things. Oxygenators, it deters algae. It actually helps your fish. Oxygenating plants produce oxygen year-round through the photosynthesis and consume minerals such as nitrogen from the water, and it outcompetes algae. That's the whole ticket right there. So if you've got a pond that's in full sun, you need plants. You need plants. Floaters. Now, most floaters are tropical, water hyacinths, water lettuce, and they grow real fast, and they cover the surface of your pond, and it shades your pond, cuts down on the algae, hides your fish from herring. It's a very good plant, but you've got to make sure that you don't let them just die, freeze, rot, fall to the bottom, and create an ammonia spike. Once they die from a frost, take them out and get rid of them. Now, the one hardy variety is duckweed. Duckweed are little tiny, little itty bitty leaves that form all together, and it coats the surface of the water. I find it to be too aggressive, but then again, if you like duckweed, go for it. It makes sure that you know that it can, where's my fish? They're under the duckweed because you can't see the water anymore because you see all duckweed. So keep that in mind. If I was to put one plant in, though, it would be oxygenators. And that Anacharis is probably the number one most popular. Parrot's feather, and then hornwort. It goes and it does so much that if you look at all of these plants, you can see where their fibrous leaves will filter through the water and take out particles. And it also, like I said, it's all about deterring algae and the fact that these are oxygenating plants, that they help your fish, they help the water quality, and it's an essential. I mean, back in the day, we used to always recommend is like, well, how many square foot of surface water do you have, and that this is how many oxygenators you need. You don't hear that very often anymore, but if I was to tell you to put in one plant, it would be an oxygenator. Now let's go back to marginals. Cattails are a marginal type plant. Pickerel rush, which I like because it has a pretty blue flower. Horsetail rush, it's kind of spiky. Now, here are some marginal plants that you might recognize because you have them planted either in your garden or your landscape. Cannas. Cannas are a water plant. Lobelia. Do you have cardinal flower? From the hummingbirds. Well, guess what? It's a water plant. Hardy hibiscus, water plant. Creeping jenny. I was talking to the grower at the aquatic plant grower, and I was telling him, we have creeping jenny in 3 different areas. We have it as a perennial, we have it as an annual to cascade over pots, and we have it in the water garden area. So we actually sell creeping jenny in 3 different ways. Variegated chameleon plant. Tim Bloxham, Center to Nursery. Are you listening? When Tim and I were young, Tim came and said, this is a great plant. It's a great perennial, and Center to Nursery grows it. He said, but when you touch it and you pet the top of the surface, it smells like a wet dog. If you have chameleon flower, chameleon plant, try it. Then there's also different types of irises and different types of grasses that are used in the pond as a marginal plant. Now, when you're buying submersibles, Lotus, for instance, Lotus are hardy. They need sun. They need to be in sun. They're the ones that you always see those pretty pictures that are in the botanical gardens, whether it's Longwood or there's a really nice section that's in the area grounds for sculpture where they have all of these lotus coming up, and then they leave those pods. Everywhere there's a pod was a flower, and lotus are hardy. You can do lotus is great. Now hardy water lilies are great. Also need sun. But then there's tropical water lilies. Now, the cool thing about tropical water lilies is the fact that they're in different colors that you don't see in this area. For instance, they're blue. Think of like the Amazon, where it's like an exotic area and that it's different shades of blue. So tropical water lilies are fun. They're like your annuals that you plant in your landscape, and that they're going to be sharp. Now, how much are you going to pay? For instance, a lotus is pretty expensive. They're about $100. Now they're going to be a big size. Don't think they're going to be in a 4-inch pot. The hardy all the water lilies, they range anywhere from $50 to $60, somewhere in then. A nice size marginal plant, like in a 9-inch pot that actually looks like something, you're going to be paying probably, I think Bloomers has got them, they're $19.99 for $35. And they're nice. They're really, really nice in that they look good. And what I mean by that is like we've sold, 4-inch water plants, and there's a lot of variety, but the problem is that they're 4-inch pots. You got to wait all summer for them to look good. The key to using plants is you want to cover 20% or more of your water surface so that you reduce the algae. And that's what it's all about. Your plants are going to help with your algae control. They're going to make your water healthier for your fish. When we do the segments about how a filter works, where the filter and the bacteria changes into a form that's safe for the fish. But what happens is it comes out and it's like, water-soluble fertilizer right away, and it feeds the algae. And that instead of the algae, it'll feed your plants as well. Now, speaking of feeding your plants, you should do it. Right here. This is a polymer-coated fertilizer that I have in my hand, and that you use it once a year. It lasts for 180 days, and that you're, depending on the size of your pot that you're feeding it. And leave the plants in the pot. If they grow roots out of the holes in the pot, great. So just make sure you're feeding your plants too with this type of fertilizer, because it's at the root source rather than just all around it. If you have questions about your pond or plants or fish or water quality, call the hotline, 609-685-1880. We'll be back right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. Wanting to up your game in the vegetable garden? With 90 years of organic gardening experience, the Espoma Company has you covered. Espoma Organic Garden Tone is not your average garden variety fertilizer. Garden Tone is especially blended for organic vegetable gardens. Its all-natural formula contains Biotone, a blend of organic ingredients that supplies essential nutrients for strong, healthy plants and mouth-watering vegetables. Its slow-release formula provides continuous feeding. The Biotone contained in Garden Tone is a combination of organic ingredients and beneficial microbes to help roots grow deeper and faster for bigger, more bountiful harvests. Garden Tone is simple to use and safe for people, pets, and the planet. No harmful chemicals or synthetic fertilizers are ever added. You can find Garden Tone at fine garden centers. Visit espoma.com to find a retailer near you. Garden Tone from Espoma, a natural in the garden since 1929. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. So this is a What's Bugging You segment. Bagworm. Let's make sure that you understand what a bagworm is. Bagworm, every fall, we get these customers that say, oh, my plant has cones on it. Oh, it looks so great. But it's all over it, and I don't know what to do. Why is it getting cones? Well, they're not cones. They're bagworm. Bagworms are hatching right now out of those cones, but it's really actually a silk pouch where the foliage from the plant is attached to that silk pouch. And it's where the adult lays the eggs, the mother lays the eggs, and now they're hatching. It's time to spray those plants that had it. Now, you can control bagworm mechanically, let's say, if you pull all those bags off in the fall, but if you just control the immature or the nymphs and before they become adults, I've seen, I actually have a video of a bagworm dragging its pouch along a notebook. It's easy to do, 3 applications, 7 to 10 days apart. You want to control them all, and that again, there could be as many as 1,000 insects from that pouch that are now hatching, and guess what? They'll make it even worse. And it's easy to control. It's not like you have to go and get a really dangerous control product. Some of the best ones are actually organic, like spinosad. Spinosad is my favorite. It's my go-to, and it actually does a great job. But any of the organics, they're going to have a limited time that it's not going to be like a systemic. A systemic may take too long to work. So a contact, when you're talking about bagworm, would probably be better. So the other one is, you hear us, we've advertised triple action. Julio is still doing it. That will work. And again, that's a combination of neem oil and a pyrethrin, which is organic, but again, that breaks down in sunlight, so it doesn't last that long. Either one of those 2 organics I would do. 8 is another one, which is not an organic, and that it works well. But again, and this is where I fall with organics. If it works, use the organic. If it doesn't work, I'm not like 100% organic. Use the chemical control. 3 applications, 7 to 10 days apart. You want to make sure that you get all of those hatching eggs casings from that pouch, and you want to get the little ones up to the big ones. You want to get them before, once they're in that pouch, nothing works. Got it? All right. Bagworms. But this is the time they hatch. Do it now. 1 application, 2 applications, 3 applications, 7 to 10 days apart. We'll be back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. Coast of Maine's Organic Castine Blend Organic Raised Bed Mix is the best soil for raised bed gardens, planter boxes, and container gardens. It grows amazing vegetables. It is made with a mixture of manure compost, worm castings, lobster and kelp meal, mycorrhiza, green sand, and biochar. It's ready to use straight out of the bag with no need for additional components or tilling. If you love growing fresh and hearty vegetables, herbs, and flowers, Coast of Maine's Castine Blend Organic Raised Bed Mix is the perfect choice for you. At Coast of Maine, we believe in growing organically and buying locally. You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or see and hear us by subscribing to Bloomers YouTube channel. Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley every Saturday. First, wake up with us at 6 a.m. on WNWR The Word at 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. Tune in at 8 a.m. to Bloomers in the Garden Radio on Talk 860 WWDB. A rebroadcast of Bloomers in the Garden Radio is played each Saturday evening at 5 p.m. on The Word, 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard throughout the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 AM WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. So this show was jam-packed with lots of information. If you have those bags on those trees, it's usually arborvitaes or junipers, or I've seen them attach themselves to like poles. Start spraying now. And also, again, weeds are going crazy. If weeds go into their flower and then have that seed head, all of a sudden you're going to have more weeds than you know what to do with. So make sure you're spraying for your weeds. And if you don't have a pond, you should start one. It's a fun thing to do, and it's like the Lion King. It's the circle of life. We'll be right back in the garden next week at the same time, and we'll see you in the garden.